I think we can all agree that the most likely candidates are Vivi, Bonnie, Yamato, and Loki, and it certainly is going to be between those four. Let's run them down real quick. Vivi is the first honorary Straw Hat. She was with them, laughed with them, cried with them, shared joy, but she eventually stayed back for her country, having the X on her arm. She's already a part of the family. No bounty, no devil fruit, no powers. Then you have Bonnie, who I would consider a wild card. One of the last remaining supernovas we hadn't fully discovered up until Egghead. But of course, after Egghead, we know all about her, all about her trauma, all about Kuma as well. Her personality plays a lot off of Luffy, which is good. Her devil fruit is broken, it's fun, it opens up a lot of cool opportunities. She also fits the tone of the crew very well, I would say, and therefore has become one of the fan favorites. And as you will see, all of these four, all of the ones I mentioned at the start, are fan favorites. And there is something I want to bring up later that I think goes around all the strides very well. So watch up until that point. Then you have Yamato. She seemed like a lock back in Wano. Everyone said the same thing. She's Odin. Of course she's gonna join us. Look at what Odin did. Look at Whitebeard. Look at Roger. Right? She's strong. She's bold. She has a relatively tragic backstory in terms of One Piece backstories. So she matches them very well. Luffy even gave her a unique name. But in the end, she stayed behind because she wanted to follow Odin's footsteps 100%. Journeying through Wano, and then we'll see what happens. It's more about self-discovery rather than escape. You could say she's a Straw Hat in spirit, more so than in timing. That is something I think you can say to a lot of these as well. So, who is it going to be? Let's start with Yamato. Yamato's journey seems to be taking a different path. She might join up later, apart, maybe at the end. The only thing I could see her joining in the prologue, or maybe in the last final arc. I do not think she's joining before that. She might even join the Grand Fleet. Someone else who might join the Grand Fleet is Loki. Loki is very mysterious. For all we know, he might not even be an ally, but I do think he's going to be an ally. This is before chapter 1154. The latest that came out is 1153. And so I do think he will be an ally. I do think he will probably either be a king or he will co-lead the New Giant Warrior Pirates with Hariden, because they've always had two leaders. And this is where I want to bring up a very important remark. Something that all the Straw Hats share. They've all been introduced before the time skip. A la pre-time skip. There's not one Straw Hat that got introduced post-time skip and joined post-time skip. Obviously, they can't get introduced post-time skip and join pre-time skip. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, what about Jinbei? We heard about Jinbei during Arlong Park. We saw him and he got introduced and impelled down. We got more of him in Fishman Island. And then he joined later officially in Wano. Or Whole Cake, whatever you want to say. That is not the same. That is also why Brook got introduced very quickly after Enies Lobby. Because I think Oda probably had the ideas of a time skip relatively after making Enies Lobby arc. We can also see this as to why Ace and Blackbeard had the fight, right? It lines up very well. So I think he thought to himself that he had to introduce all of them, and that is also why Jinbei gets introduced during Impel Down. He's always with Luffy too, our main character. He's the one who says to him that he has to remember his friends, which is a very important line. Lastly, we have Bonnie and Vivi. Bonnie is very, very close, but still, in the larger grand of things, feels like a passing companion. She has Kuma to worry about. I've heard some people talk about joining Revolution Army. I do not know about that. I think before that we have to see Sabo meet up with Luffy, which I'll talk about a little bit about later. It'd be very cool if she just wanders around the world. Of course, she can control all the pacifistas, so she has to be of some use during the final war, of course. And she's a pretty big character, so of course that's very understanding. And lastly, this brings us to Vivi. She's already in the story. The world government is hunting her. She's connected to Cobra, Emu, and Sabo. Sabo got told by Cobra to meet up with Luffy and Vivi. I have a thought that this might happen relatively close or at the same time. We know Vivi is close too because she's at Morgan's place with Wapol, which was near Egghead, and Egghead is near Elbaf. She has history, she has motive, she got introduced pre-time skip, like I said, very early on as well. And we see her throughout the whole story. And she has a personal stake against the biggest mystery in One Piece, which is Inu. That is very important as well. Does she have much power? No, not really. She could be like a diplomat of the crew, or some sort of leader. Obviously not the captain, but I could imagine on the ship Frankie maybe builds like a command room, right? And she could be in that during the final war and command everyone. That would be kind of cool. She was the first to lead the ship. Maybe now she'll be the last to join it.